Hi, good morning. This is my take on the healthcare reform law, or the Affordable Health Care Act, that was just upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States. Basically, they said the individual mandate could be held not by forcing people to buy insurance, but it could be held as a non-compliance tax. Not a tax on everyone, the tax on people who want to be free riders and don't want to purchase health insurance. Now, first thing I want to say is that I have no legal training. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I don't pretend to be. And I didn't really know the technical details of whether this, how this thing should be decided in terms of constitutionality. But here's what I do know. I do know that this plan in a basic form was contrived by the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank. I know something very much like this was presented to President Clinton by Senator Bob Dole, a prominent Republican. So clearly, Senator Dole, the Republicans in Congress at the time, and the Heritage Foundation, which, it's a conservative place. I don't necessarily agree with them lots of times, but they're smart people. They all thought it was constitutional. Then Governor Mitt Romney, presidential candidate, governor of Massachusetts, enacted something very similar in his own state. Had the mandate. He mentioned that this would keep the cost down so everybody could have insurance and eliminated free riders. He thought it was constitutional. So you had Republicans thinking it was constitutional. You had, of course, President Obama, who taught constitutional law, and Democrats in the Senate thinking it was constitutional. So we had wide agreement on constitutionality on both sides of the aisle, and albeit not at the same time. So my take is that this cries of unconstitutionality was basically partisanship in action, a way of Republicans trying to overturn a democratically decided law. It didn't work. So I want to make it clear that this was not a referendum on whether this plan was a good idea, good policy, but rather it passes constitutional muster, and according to the Supreme Court, it does. So, personally, well, look, I'm a hippie-ish type of guy, I have a beard, I'm going to want single payer. And ironically, this Supreme Court victory makes what I want, single payer or something like it, more remote than it would have been before. So that's my take on this, and I wish my Republican friends would put aside their partisanship for just a little bit and celebrate that the idea that they came up with back when the Republican Party was a party of ideas. Remember that? Well, they came up with an idea that passed constitutional muster and is now in place. And I think the law is going to work reasonably well. And when it does, I hope the Republicans will backtrack their opposition and instead celebrate that this was their idea to begin with. Thanks for listening.